Prater The Ballgame are counting down the days to the start of Boise State football's fall camp August 3rd.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
7 of the hottest topics on Bronco football. Countdown to camp on Sports Radio 95.3, The Ticket.
All right, welcome back. Don't forget, we're about 35 minutes or so away from Bob Thompson, the retired former president of Fox Sports Networks. What is Boise State worth contractually to television markets? What would that have to do with them possibly getting a future power conference invite, Prater? You booked this guy, you tracked him down. I think I don't even know what you pulled to try to get this guy, but it worked. Well done.
Want to try to find out the value of Boise State football. That's way more important right now than Boise State's record in 2022 football season, although that's more short-term. But, 5 o'clock, Bob Thompson, the value of Boise State and how they can, reduce that gap and how they can make themselves more attractive to the Big 12s and the Pac-12s of the world.
It's going to be a good segment. Again, nothing but the best here on Idaho Sports Talk. All right, 7-part series. We kick this sucker off today. I know you've detailed the statistics. Boise State, for the first time since Houston Nutt, they didn't average 30 points a game offensively through a season. It was close to that long.
I think it may have been 98, maybe even 98 Cutter's first season.
Okay.
I mean, the first half of that Cutter season and the previous year with Houston Nutt, and certainly the year before then when Pokey Allen was dying. That was a 2.5 year. That was the worst 2.5 years in the history of Boise State's football offense. Halfway through that season, after a disastrous road trip to Denton, Texas, Bart Hendricks, Dirk Cutter, they changed the offense. It happened literally overnight. And since that season, Boise State football until last year has averaged 30 points plus per game. And in many cases, 40 plus per game.
In many cases, it's been the best offense in the country.
Yes, sir.
They've scored more than anybody. I mean, you look at like the top 20 touchdown scorers in college football in the last 20 years, like 4 of them are Boise State guys. Ian, Forsey, Ajayi, McNichols. Like, they've just scored in just mass volumes. And last year, they didn't have that. And not only was it the scoring down, Prater, but the yardage was down too. And we're talking about hot topics here. And I don't think there's a hotter topic at work, at the water cooler, at the bar, at the buddy's house, wherever. People are hanging, talking Boise State football, offensive football, about what Tim Plough and this offense is hopefully going to look like in their case this season moving forward. Because if it looks anything like last year's, more so than what people have seen in this year, seen in the past with this program, people are going to have a lot of issues with it. And Prater, that's a big part of the 7-5. The offense just wasn't there the way it's been in the past. If you try to tell me that you're going to have a similar offense statistically like you had last year, but you're going to be 11-1, I'm not buying it. You're 7-5. Bill Parcells said you are what your record says you are. You're a 7-5 team. You're a 7-5 team. There's a reason for that. Prater, the stats and some other stuff need to come with it for this team to win the amount of games that this fan base and this program expects itself to. And it's going to start here with offensively with Tim Plough.
And I think the most optimistic thing here is they know what the problem is. A lot of times when you're looking at a football team and they're struggling on offense, it's like, I can't get my head around it. Is it the quarterback? Is it the running back? Is it the chemistry? Is it the timing? Is it the offensive line? Is it the wide receivers? Is it the tight end? Is it the coach? The play calling? Whatever. In this particular case, this is why I am 100% optimistic. And then you guys know me. That's not always my MO. But I'm 100% optimistic in this offense because, one, they know what the one specific problem was last year, and they can focus on that and fix it. I think there was only one major problem with Boise State's offense last year. Red zone. It really came down to that. If you take the red zone offense, they were good from 20 to 20. From the 20 inside, which is the most important part, they were terrible or inconsistent, I guess would probably be the more accurate word here. They know exactly what the problem is. Fix that red zone offense and actually score more points. That's where I think this offense is going to get better. Hank is going to get better because Hank has gotten better every single year. I have to think that Tim Plough is going to be better because he's just a smart guy. We'll find out if he's a good football coach after this football season. I'm not going to give him the moniker yet. It seems like he's got a decent resume and everybody likes him, but let's see what kind of changes that he can make. The offensive line is going to be better. I think a lot of parts of this offense are going to be better, but they got to figure out how to be better in the red zone. And let's hope they spent the last 6 months trying to figure that out. That's really the only thing they need to do is just get better in the red zone ball game.
I would like to know what Tim Plough thinks, as maybe we'll ask him why this team wasn't as efficient in the red zone as it needed to be. And that's putting 6 on the board, not settling for 3.
Yes, sir.
They settled for 3 too damn many times last year. And in the world, like I say about kicking field goals, it's like kissing your sister, man. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's not going to get you where you want to go, and that's what they did. They were kissing their sister in the red zone, kicking field goals on that. And hopefully they have found those problems. Maybe some of it was the offensive line. It was sporadic at best. Maybe if that's solidified, you can run the ball or feel better about that. You can feel better about calling anything in the playbook. But Tim Plough, I think, said for certain times last year was strapped with this roster and the offensive line and the center issues that they were having. Just getting a snap back to the quarterback was a problem at times for this team. Maybe they need to develop that big red zone target this year and make that a factor. I mean, last year, they probably should have thrown to Shaq more in the red zone, but for whatever reason, it wasn't there. And maybe defenses were taking that away too. Tim Plough, he's not the type of guy, and we've talked to him in the offseason. He's not the type of guy that's like, hey, I don't know what happened. Yeah, I mean, I thought we were doing fine. Yeah, I mean, come on. He knows it wasn't up to the standard. He knows. It's just your boy Mike Tomlin says, the standard is the standard. And I think that a lot of that applies with Boise State in this offense. And hopefully Tim Plough's the guy. I think he is. Year 2, it's just got to be better than year 1, right? I mean, year 1 was year 1 for a lot of people in that program last year. Year 2, your feet are wet. You had a whole off season to work on this. You know the lay of the land now. I hope Tim Plough is fired up, ready to go. At times, it looked marvelous. Look at the first half of the first game against UCF. Remember that? They were up 21-0 on UCF, and I'm sitting there with you. We're watching this game going, holy shnikes. This Tim Plough guy really is a genius. Holy smokes.
Yep.
Then all of a sudden, a couple of things happen. They end up losing that game. So it wasn't a whole year of, hey, where is this offense? What's going on? They found it at times. It just was about being consistent. And maybe the reason it wasn't consistent is because you had a different center every week, different linemen shuffling around. Who knows? But this year, there's no excuses this year. Tim Plough doesn't get a year 3 if this team isn't averaging 30 points a game, and this team has 5+ losses. I don't think Tim Plough's back for a year 3, and I think Tim Plough probably knows that too.
It depends. And Tim Plough isn't the most important person when it comes to Boise State's offense. Hank Bachmeier is not the most important person when it comes to Boise State's offense. To me, it comes down to George Holani. And I preached this like a mother last year, and some of you guys jumped on me hard because you thought it was the offensive line. You thought it was Tim Plough. It's George Holani, guys. It really, truly is. That 4-game winning streak last year where they beat Colorado State, Fresno State, Wyoming, and New Mexico, they scored 130 points in 4 games, 28, 40, 23, 37. 3 of those games, George Holani ran for 100 yards. The only 3 times he ran for 100 yards, they scored 100 points in 3 games. It has to be George Holani. And I say that because I have no idea how good Ashton Jeanty is. I do know what kind of depth there is behind Ashton Jeanty, almost nothing. So Boise State, you need to have George Holani. I think the 2 most important people behind him are the center and the right guard. The Beresford kid might be the biggest addition to this football team in the offseason. I think Beresford is going to become a household name. I think he's going to be a rock-solid, dependable guy. And Boise State's going to have 2 potential guys on the outside of their offensive line. That's massive. Get the tight ends involved because you need the tight ends, especially a Riley Smith, who can be a big, tall guy. I hate the fade pass because it's just not a high percentage play unless you have Randy Moss.
It eliminates every other thing you can do. It's just, there narrows down just to one little thing in the corner. I get you.
But Boise State I don't know, did they even run it last year? And maybe they didn't run it because they weren't confident in running it. You have to have the right chemistry, the right timing, the right personnel. And it seems like to me, if Riley Smith with his big, tall, lanky frame can't get up and fight for a ball at 7 feet in the air in the corner of an end zone, when your red zone offense is struggling, that to me seems like a lost opportunity. So you've got to be able to take care of that. I just think all the pieces that are there. And if George Holani can stay healthy for 10, 11, 12 games, you said 30 points ball game. I need Boise State averaging 35 plus. And one of my big deals about that is the defense. Playmaking, ball hawking, takeaway defense, maybe can get you a touchdown every other game and give you some extra points. There's a lot of stuffing in those extra points. And if Boise State can get 3 or 4 or 5 touchdowns out of its defense this year, obviously that increases your point production.
What do you guys think? 208-424-9300 on the Cloverdale Plumbing text line. When I go back and I think of, when Boise State was one of the best offenses in college football history in some instances with some of the numbers they were putting up. We talk about the quarterbacks all the time and how electric they were, and they were. But I just wrote down this list. Brock Forsey, Ian Johnson, Doug Martin, Jay Ajayi, Jeremy McNichols, and Alexander Madison. Those are 6 backs, guys, and they were all those 6 backs on those type of offenses that we've seen Boise State have, where you're averaging close to 40 points a game on a season. I know everybody got a lot of credit with the quarterback, and rightfully so, but like those offenses were almost built behind a workhorse running back, which takes me back to your George Holani statements, right? If George Holani can have a year like the aforementioned Prater, then that's probably the first thing Tim Plough needs to bring everything else together with it. And let's hope he's that guy. This town needs that guy. This fan base wants that guy, right? And George Holani wants to be that guy, right? But they've been spoiled or fortunate. This fan base has to have those, and those guys had massive numbers, 20-plus touchdowns, player of the year stuff. Like, a lot of them go to the NFL. Doug was a first-round pick. Ajayi won a Super Bowl. Madison's off to a nice start with his career. Brock Forsey was drafted. So, man, you forget how important the feature bell cow back was to those offenses. And then you just come over, there's 6 guys right there. Wow. They hit it out of the park with all 6 of those players. That's a hot topic. Plough's offense, year 2, cannot wait to see what these guys can do. Love it, Prater. We got Bob Thompson, former president of Fox Sports, going to break down the TV biz in college football and where Boise State fits into that. He'll join us in a half hour.
By the way, tomorrow, hot topic, as the temperature around here, it's supposed to be like 106 or 107. So these are literally hot topics tomorrow. The 4 new coaches. Boise State has 4 new coaches, and we're going to take a look at these 4 new coaches and their contribution and what they can make in terms of Boise State becoming a better football team than last year.
The Big Sky is at Media Days today up in Spokane. Jason Eck talked. We have some audio. Vandal fans hear from Vandal head coach Jason Eck when we come back. Prater in the Ball Game, Idaho Sports Talk.
This is Idaho Sports Talk with Prater in the Ball Game on Sports Radio 95.3 FM and 1350 AM.